Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to everybody who is dialing in for today's Tree Sisters event. Today we are talking with poet Rachel Bentham, and we hope to be online for about 45 minutes to an hour today. So if you wanted to take a minute, get a drink, get comfortable, we will talk about some of Rachel's poems, her inspiration as a poet, a little bit about Tree Sisters, and hopefully open up some time for Q&A. We're going to get started in just a moment. For those of you who are new to Tree Sisters, just so you know that we are a nature restoration charity. We are based in the UK, despite my accent. I'm calling in from Oxford today, and we are an organization who believes in a world where nature and people flourish in connection, equity, and harmony. Through our operations, we work with partners to facilitate and inspire ethical forest restoration. All of our work centers women and gender equity, and we hope to inspire connection with nature to promote a consciousness shift from consumer to restorer. Over the past 11 years, almost 12 years now of Tree Sisters, we have managed 19 projects across 19 countries, planted almost 29 million trees. We're always so excited to see that number go up every time we get in new project reports from our partners. And we've restored over 10,000 hectares of land. Through the course of Tree Sisters' lifetime, we have spent almost 5 million pounds on global restoration projects. We believe that women at the center of restoration actually equates to better restoration outcomes. We see that in our projects, and we're always happy to share updates with you on our social media pages as well as our website. Today's event is not so much about ethical restoration. Today's event is a bit more about nature connection. If you are new to the world of nature connection, we in Tree Sisters capitalize the letter N in nature. We believe its own entity. We believe that we are part of nature. And nature connection itself, that refers to the emotional, cognitive, and physical relationship people have with their natural environment, fosters a sense of belonging and responsibility towards nature. We believe that nature connection is important because it enhances well-being, promotes environmental stewardship, and encourages sustainable behaviors toward our world. We also believe that nature connection helps individuals and communities to thrive while protecting the planet. Over the next year, we're very excited at Tree Sisters to share with you a few new projects, and we will see those come up on our website and social media, so stay tuned for those. Today, again, we are here with Rachel Bentham. Rachel is calling in today from Bristol. She teaches at Oxford and Bristol University. She has been a Royal Literary Fellow in 5 different universities. Rachel has written for the BBC through plays, docudramas, and stories, and won prizes for script writing and poetry. I had the absolute joy of spending an afternoon with Rachel a few months ago at one of my favorite restaurants here in Oxford. We discussed my favorite topics, which were writing, nature, dogs, and feminism. I truly believe that you connect with anyone if you can connect over those topics. So I'm so happy to be spending this time with Rachel today. Rachel has been in Japan for a little over the past month. She's been writing poems every day in different types of Japanese forms, including, I'm hoping I pronounce all of these correctly, haikus, ringas, and tankas. I'm not quite sure about that, but Rachel is going to talk to us about some of that time in Japan here today. Um, First question, Rachel, is there anything else that you wanted to share with yourself that I didn't cover? The floor is yours.
No, that sounds like
Great.
you've done a great job there. Yeah.
Okay. Next question then. What inspired you to be a poet and specifically a poet that works within nature?
Oh, I think probably being a child and the time that I spent in nature as a child, you know. I started writing when I was really little, like maybe 8, and I used to spend a lot of time up in trees. I used to come home from school, climb the tree with a book, usually. So Um, it always felt like my little space and my little own time to be with nature on my own in nature.
Have you ever
Yeah.
gone back and looked at any of the poems or writings that you did when you were 8 and think, oh, wow, I really have a talent for that? I maybe didn't see it when I was 8, but I see it now.
No. No, I don't have them. I mean,
They,
I've got later ones, and my teachers were always very nice to me. I mean, I had very inspiring English teachers who seemed to spot that I really enjoyed writing. At any rate, yeah.
yes. Yeah. Do you, as you were sitting up in trees writing as a child and compared to how you write now, do you find that you prefer to write enveloped in nature, sitting under a tree, sitting near a stream, somewhere maybe along the coast since you're out in Bristol, or do you find that it's easier to find time to spend in nature, maybe go for a walk, forest bathe? Dip your toes into the sand in the creek and then bring all of those inspirations back into your home and write? Which do you find is better for you?
Well, both are better. So I really like sitting in my garden writing, if that's possible. But don't forget, we are in Britain, and there's a lot of rain. So it's not always ideal to be outside and trying to write. And I would definitely, go out and be in nature and then come back and, have something to write about it. And when I was in Japan, I stayed in a kind of mountainy place, which was right beside a river. So we have massive windows out onto the river, and I wrote every day, not necessarily outside, but looking at it and connected with it, or on the balcony or whatever. Yeah.
Did you find that your time in Japan gave you a different connection to nature or inspired you to write in a different way than what you find here in England or Bristol?
Well, it because I was trying to write in these Japanese forms, they're very precise and they're very, you could say restricted because you've got a certain number of syllables to use. But I mean, that's quite an interesting discipline. It's like a little puzzle. So if I was here, I might munter on a bit more. I don't know if everyone knows what that means. That means just like writing some more and not being so kind of restrained and disciplined about it on a first draft. So I'd look at it again later and edit it. So it'd be a slightly different process. And I did actually break out in Japan and write some longer ones, which were about their incredible ways of cleaning up their communities and picking up litter and doing that with their grandchildren. And yeah.
Do you find that your poetry can be a way to inspire environmental advocacy in that sense? Since you wrote that time there, do you feel like that sort of art form can help inspire us to do more for our world around us?
Well, I hope so. I hope that there are lots of forms of writing that could inspire people to do something. Um, and just to connect for themselves. So people writing for themselves about nature, which, frequently happens. And we
Yeah.
do frequently observe it, even if we're not particularly conscious of it. It's a nice way of just getting tuned in. But yeah, it's a good question in terms of political activism. What I mean, I definitely read things that inspire me.
Yeah.
So it's hard to speak for other people on that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have had people come up to me in public toilets and recite my poems back to me and say, well, that made me do this or that made me do the other. So maybe that is the case.
That must have been
Mm.
very shocking the first time. The second time where you're thinking, oh, this is my life now. I'm going to have people come up to me in public toilets.
Yeah. It's a strange environment, but I suppose it's fairly private. So
Yes, yeah.
yeah,
It's flattering.
yeah, yeah, I was quite taken aback the first time.
Did you have a particular poem or a handful of poems that you wanted to share with us today? Read them, share them with us, talk about the inspiration and how you hope they make us feel.
Sure. Yeah. I thought it would be nice to maybe read a couple of the ones that went out with the publicity stuff. And one of them, Let Us Not, is actually now being used in kind of official documents about woodland restoration. So this is Let Us Not.
Yes. And the book is Heartwood. You can see that through my blurred thing. It's right
Yeah.
here. And she's referring to Let Us Not, which is on page 29 of the book, if you happen to be following along.
So this is kind of about, it's about communication and consciousness, and how we communicate with each other, and whether aspects of nature like trees can communicate with each other or other plants. Let us not. Is what we call a tree not what we believe, an individual, but a connection, merging and exchanging air and water, both above and below, with soil, fungus, and others, all sharing, as if I held your hand and our skin fused, swapping wordless messages, as we may and do share so much in silence that's most meaningful. Let us not so easily assume that they do not. So, there's the sort of old idea about trees as all competing for light and competing with each other to get up and beat the other one down, but that doesn't seem to be really the case now, and scientists are working out that there's a lot of communication under the ground, and trees will help each other. They'll actually feed other trees, and sometimes for reasons that we can't really understand. So there are trees that have been cut down, like the parent tree with a lot of other trees around it, and that stump is fed through the roots, so it's not actually dead for decades sometimes. So there's all sorts of weird and interesting things going on. And I mean, there are forests in the States, like forests of aspens, which generate themselves as clones. So the roots go out through the ground and then pop up another tree. So they're all genetically identical. So they are the same individual, and that individual might go on for hundreds of miles. So what do we know about how they are communicating with each other? And trees do communicate because, a lot of experiments have been done. So for instance, an insect can start attacking one end of a row of trees, and then the trees at the other end will start producing a chemical to deter the insects. So they've got that message through the row somehow, which we don't yet know really how that happens. So there's an awful lot of interesting research that could be done. Oh, I've lost your voice, Ashley.
There we go.
Oh,
Which I'd silence myself to give you the space of no background noise.
wow.
Um, when you were writing, especially about trees and nature, do you find yourself researching anything in the background, or are you writing solely off of your own knowledge of things or things that you've experienced?
No, I did go and research things, especially for this book. So I went to visit various people, for instance, a tree verifier that I know who lives in Cornwall, and she goes out and they literally kind of hug the tree because you have to measure it at the height of your heart. And then the trees are classified as sort of champion trees or veteran trees, and then they can get a sort of protected status from that. So there are all sorts of people doing strange and wonderful things with trees.
Yeah, I love
Um,
the idea of measuring something by your heart. That's really beautiful.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh.
yeah, that's nice.
Did you have another poem you wanted to share with us?
Sure. Um, I'd like to read this one about my father because it sort of starts with the soil, and the soil is incredibly complex, and it's so important for all of life. It's so important for farming. It's so important for all of our survival that we have healthy soil. And my father was obsessed with compost. So I wrote this poem about him, and it's called At 85. My father loved his compost, warm and fetid until it developed full fragrance, forked and turned through 3 wood-framed stages of slow cooking. Under ancient carpet covers, he found the secret green of grass snake, or rose gold slowworm, coiled like an ammonite on soft, damp rot. Garden prunings, grass clippings, kitchen peelings, cores and shucks. He pulled out a metal rod from the steaming layer cake. Feel that, he said. It was too hot to hold. Satisfaction leaked from his every pore. We knew he peed on it to get it going. No one mentioned that. He lugged bags of riches to my car, pungent as secrets, all the way home. And he was actually quite interested in permaculture, and he grew lots of bonsai. So I think that it had a lot of influence on my early years. And in fact, when I was in Japan, is really apparent how much they control their gardens, because even the kind of full scale trees are kind of bonsai, so they're clipped and cut an awful lot. And I was thinking how much gardening, like we have our connection with nature is often gardening in Britain, but how much of it is about control, and it's about killing things and killing pests and killing things that we don't want to be in there, like weeds and in the States, there's quite a big movement for prairie lawns, isn't there? Sort of instead of chucking all the pesticides and herbicides at things. So this is a poem about it's about my parents, and it's about my dad, and it's about humans versus nature. And it's called My Dad Gave Me a Giant Redwood, which he did. My dad gave me a giant redwood cramped in a bonsai pot. He liked control. Wore secateurs in a holster, a Berkshire gunslinger. Dozens of trees squeezed into shallow pots, snipped to tiny. Glorious maples, groves of beech, juniper, even random hawthorn bushes nipped into floating cloud formation. Ah, the achievement. By the end of the day, cherry and pear trees pruned into orderly offerings. My mum sat smoking, drinking instant coffee, watching blossom throw itself across the lawn. So she was a bit of a free spirit, slightly different to his approach. And when you asked about research, I did do sort of research into various people who'd worked with planting trees. And one of the amazing ones is Wangari Maathai. And she's an amazing African woman who set up this whole movement for planting trees and, inspired people to get on with planting trees. And she was put in jail and all sorts of horrible things happened to her, but she carried on. And she was the first, she was the first person to get a Nobel Prize. She founded the Green Belt movement. Anyway, she was called a mad woman by the Kenyan president and beaten unconscious and driven into hiding and various things. But she did organise the planting of over 50 million trees. So, there are people like that going on. There's a poem about her in the book. And pretty amazing stuff, isn't it? To just get on and do something, regardless of what's coming back at you.
And pretty amazing that someone who is doing something so good as planting 50 million trees could
Yeah.
also, in turn, be called a madwoman.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. I mean, absolutely beautiful. I'm blanking on the name of the poem for her at the moment, but I do remember reading it.
Yeah. Do you want me to read it? It's called
Yeah, that would
Wongarai
be lovely. Yeah,
Mathai.
thank you. Thanks.
It would be helpful if we said the page numbers. This is on page
Yes,
50.
yes.
That's page 50. Wongarai Mathai. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones planting one foot in front of the other. Planting for 40 years. Bending and planting. We plant trees because there is a right balance. 1, good government. 2, peace. 3, regard for nature. 30,000 women bending and planting and tending forests to grow up to help us. If anything can help us now, we are the ones. We are the ones planting forests so we can breathe and our children can breathe. Planting, planting, planting. And I thought that's a nice one for Tree Sisters, isn't it?
I was just going to say that one absolutely gave me chills when I read it because it is absolutely Tree Sisters. It is everything that we believe in. It's the women on the ground who are planting the trees, they're raising the nurseries, they're keeping them healthy, they're seeing these high survival rates, and by doing so, they're taking care of their communities, they're providing fresh foods like constant supply chains of food sources for their children. They're creating
Yeah,
livelihoods. They're finding economic independence off of the piece of the trees. And it's just so beautiful. And I love that line there where you say, we plant trees because there is a right balance, good government, peace, and regard for nature. That idea that planting trees can result in peace. I
yeah,
think that's
yeah.
absolutely beautiful.
Well, those are her 3 points. And you know what's really weird is that when I teach in Oxford, I didn't really know anything about Wongerai until I started researching it. And I don't know if you know, but in Oxford colleges, you probably do actually because you live there, but they have sort of private gardens for the, staff. And I went into the private garden to do some yoga, and I was doing it under a tree, and I noticed there was a plaque under the tree, and I read it, and it was planted by Wongerai Maathai herself
Oh,
in this college in Exeter College Garden. I was like, wow! And I would never have known who she was if I hadn't found that out. So that was quite cool.
I am going to make an effort to go see that. Yes, so if
Yeah,
anybody is ever doing, if they're local, reach out to me. But if you happen to be doing an away day in Oxford someday, you can check on the websites, and many of the colleges do have open days. So you can see the private gardens. Some have deer
yeah,
parks, some just have beautiful manicured gardens, some are more meadows. But it's really
yeah,
beautiful because they're quite peaceful away from the tourism and the hustle and bustle of Oxford. So that's really beautiful. So that one's at Exeter College.
yeah.
Okay. There was a poem that I really love that I wanted you to read. And there was a line I wanted to talk about a little bit. But just to say to anybody who's online, if you have a question that comes up, you should be able to pop a question in the Q&A section on your Zoom. You can also pop it into the chat. We'll hold time at the end for Q&A. But if there's something that you wanna get down before you forget it, pop it in there. The Q&A only goes to me, so I will read it and I will hold it till the end. So if you want to make it anonymous, that's okay too. But the poem that I really wanted to talk about is Patience, which is on page 44. So I would love if you read that, and then I had a couple of
Mhm.
questions for you about it.
Okay, great. Patience. You came to the woods, but didn't want to lie in the moss until the tessellations of twig and leaf untangled your mind. It was a walk through you wanted, not sinking into bird song and leaf mould. You attempt patience, but your legs twitch to move on, like those other men striding ahead of their partners and children left trailing behind. Once you slowed enough to see the shrew busy beside the path, but not long enough to hear the wood ants hum or to watch caterpillars descending on sunlit threads, swaying under branches until the heart thrums with the quiet.
So there's a particular part in there that really caught my attention.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it is, and then I want to ask you a question about it. You attempt patience, but your legs twitch to move on like those other men striding ahead of their partners and children left trailing behind. So
Yeah.
my question is that conjured up this incredible image that I see all the time, which is women hanging back with the children and the men kind of walking ahead. And
Yeah.
that's just a very literal image of what you wrote, but I really wanted to ask. I put a note here and I put feminism, ask questions, but what is the interpretation there that it is a literal image of a man walking ahead and the woman holding back? And maybe and at first thought I went to kind of a negative, oh, they're walking ahead, they're leaving the women to tend with the children and they're in their own world. But then I thought, in a positive spin on that, maybe it's the women and the children who are stopping and who are thinking about nature and who are taking the time to connect with nature and really find the beauty in it, where maybe it's the men who are pushing ahead and not stopping to just be, to just experience. Maybe it's the women and children who really see the beauty in that moment of nature. So
Yeah.
wanted to throw that back at you.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to be particularly judgmental about it, but I do see that all the time. You know, you see it mountain climbing, you see the women lagging behind, the men's off, and they're probably trained to be much more target driven, and I want to get to here by then. And I feel like when I'm out walking, I just want to stop. I want to be able to take some time just soaking it in. And that having stopped, I quite often see things I don't think I would have seen otherwise, like a skylark washing itself in a little puddle of water. You know, if I'd been striding through, I wouldn't have seen that. And maybe women are a bit more socialized to stop because we do often, oh, I'm getting a message saying that Zoom is causing my phone to overheat.
Oh,
So it's going to close down. But maybe women are more trained to just stop with their children and look at things because toddlers are slow, aren't they? And children are quite interested because they're down on that level with weeds and insects and whatnot. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Again, if anybody has any questions they want to pop in, or if there's a particular poem that you wanted Rachel to read or answer a few questions about, it'd be an absolute great time to do that. In the meantime, Rachel, was there another poem that you wanted to read, wanted to share
Yeah,
with
I
us?
thought I'd read the other one that was put out, which is kind of inspired by the fact that in Britain a lot of woods are private and they say no entry and private property and no trespassers and things like that. This is probably not true all over the world. So this is called No Entry. Nature Conservation Area. No public right of way. Notices hammered to the trees in the dark wood today. Yet I am nature as much as these grey-skinned beeches, and just want to sit still inside the inner reaches. I went in and wandered and met no one but myself. I sat, I left nothing and took nothing except solace, just that. Oh yeah, page 48, sorry. So it's also something I think we overlook, that we are part of nature. You know, we sort of go nature as if it's something out there, but we really are part of it and we really do have a massive effect on it. And it has a massive effect on us, like the physiological effect of being in woodland is very, very beneficial to the human body. Particularly pine trees, interestingly, they're very, very good to be underneath because they release lots of phenols and it's very beneficial, lowers your blood pressure, lowers your heart rate. So the sort of feeling that you've been calmed by being in a forest is literally true for your body.
I wanted to comment on this line about yet I am nature. So
Yeah.
it is a I don't want to say trendy because that makes it sound as if at some point in time it's going to fall out of trend, and that's absolutely not what I mean. But we see that term, I am nature or we are nature, picking up rapid speed, which is incredible when you take into thought what that means. And it's the idea. If you're not familiar with it, there was a campaign a couple of years ago from Lawyers for Nature and House of Hackney, and it was just hashtag We Are Nature. And Tree Sisters did support and sign for it. Um, it's a campaign that says that it recognizes that Western dictionaries don't define nature as including humans. Which is
Ah,
bizarre to me because if you talk to a small child and their minds are always blown when you say humans are mammals and therefore we are animals and we are part of nature. And it's such a direct line to this. But
yeah,
this We Are Nature campaign is reminding us that we are nature and it's there in your poem. And it's this campaign, this idea, this statement of I am nature, we are nature is reflecting a huge number of scientific evidence and overwhelming consensus that we are part of nature. Obviously, we are, and we're part of this wider ecosystem. But in action, environmental action and advocacy, it means that we don't have a hierarchy over top of nature, that we shouldn't commodify nature, we shouldn't use it, we should be part of it, we should strengthen it, we should fight for it. And that as long as we take a stance that we are superior to nature, it's going to continue destroying biodiversity. It's going to continue the climate crisis, and it's going to end in disaster. So this movement is really about talking about that we are nature, we're a part of nature. And I love that line. I am nature as much as these gray-skinned beaches, and I just want to sit still inside the inner reaches. I just love that. Were you
yeah.
aware of that campaign when you wrote that, or was that just something that came to you?
No, I actually wasn't aware of that. But I agree, it is very odd the way there's been a history of people kind of imagining that we're the top of some hierarchy and that we're in control of all the other stuff like nature and animals. But,
Yeah,
think about hurricanes, tornadoes, and, how much are we in control actually? And it's a sort of myth to believe that, isn't it? Because people then think that they can fix everything or that they can do what they like to nature.
yeah.
And that's completely bizarre to believe that.
It's completely bizarre given our entire livelihood is based on the survival of nature and the world around us.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even the little bees
Yeah.
are doing something to help us, and we can't manage without them. So, who do we think we are, basically?
In charge, apparently.
Yeah.
We had a question come in, a request to read on page 22, More Than
Mhm.
Human. So would you
Okay.
honor that request, please?
Sure. And that's very on point, isn't it? With who are we in relation to nature? More than human.
Page 22.
Yeah. They may seem still on a winter afternoon, minimal as Whistler's mother in grey, brown, white tones, but something is moving inside. Phloem, tiny shoves, cell to cell, liquid, mineral, the bleed of resin, and underground, skin wrapped to skin, swapping secret sugars in the dark, wriggled, hooked, and burrowed into the earth, buffeted and baked by winds and weathers, bathed with rain, reaching rootlets out to others, other species, other networks, over mountains, beyond sight. Who or what is conscious, doing so much that we cannot? As the land signals, butterflies come, as woods murmur, glorious damp abundance calling. And the ends bit, the last stanza of that poem, actually refers to Nep because that's one of the earliest rewilding sites, and they did all this work. And they thought that emperor butterflies, purple emperor butterflies, were extinct in Britain. And then they did all this work with their sort of sallows and willows, and the emperor butterflies came back, and they come from miles and miles and miles away. So how did they know to come back? How did they know that the land was now ready for them? It's phenomenal. It really is. Love it.
It is. They maybe I'm putting some human value on this, but I like to imagine that they knew where home was and they wanted to return to their home. Do you
Yeah.
have you found during your time writing in nature or your travels, have you found a particular place that does feel more like home, where you feel more inspired to write, where you feel like the poetry flows maybe more so than someplace else?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, I guess in my garden actually, because I've got such a close relationship with it. I've planted all the trees there. It's a completely new garden, so everything in it was planted by me, and it's quite a mixture of kind of wild and um, not so wild. But I planted. It's not a very big garden, but I planted quite a lot of trees in it. So it feels very secluded because the trees are all growing up and over.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's very safe and secluded and contemplative, really. Yeah,
The
I
idea
like.
of home being safe maybe is what those monarch butterflies felt as well. That home is where they felt
Yeah,
safe. They felt their environment wasn't going to be destroyed. They knew there was a sense of protection in that space.
yeah,
Or I'd like to
yeah.
believe.
Mm,
We have another question
mm-hmm,
asking if you could please read Green Need. And
mm-hmm,
that is on page 13 for anybody who is following
mm-hmm.
around. So Green Need.
Yeah. Green need. After school, I shoved a book in my waistband and climbed up into the elm high above our house, away from the busy talking people. Up among dusty leaves, I rocked on a bough into other worlds. Bolder, older, I scaled the tallest tree in town, a single straight up fir, treading dead branches first. Close to the trunk, they took a 10-year-old's weight. Just. Arms stretched over bark-faced gaps almost too wide to cross, scraping green need up through scratch and needle pine scent, bright under nails, sucked into lungs, heart, up, up till I clung to the wild whip top, riding a 10-foot gutsy arc in jubilant wind. Years later, my mother said she saw my orange cardie sailing 100 feet high in the treetop. She'd watched from the kitchen sink, but never stopped me. I think that's a bit of a testament to the freedom of a 60s childhood, where I was pretty much allowed to just go out and climb trees and do whatever. And I quite often took a book up, so that's why I'd just sit rocking on the bough into other worlds, because the other worlds are the trees, are the books. And the, the very tallest tree in town, that was in Swansea, there was one very, very tall tree that I used to climb up, and it literally did this sort of incredible whipping in the wind, 10 foot, like a brilliant sort of fairground ride, really, completely free.
I have a memory of perhaps also being an 80s child,
Mm,
of skipping school when I was probably 11. And instead of just skipping school to, I don't know, go to a friend's house or do something silly, I remember packing all my favorite books and walking deep into the woods and sitting there by myself, sitting in a bed of dried up loblolly pine needles and just sitting there for 8 hours in the deep southern heat, baking my skin. And around lunchtime, I got my packed lunch, I ate it, and then I returned to my book. And I remember thinking it was the happiest day that I had, that I sat there by myself all day in the
mm,
woods, no one bothering me, squirrels, maybe a little rat snake going by on its own. But just how beautiful that was, and that we have those connections that these remember for the rest of our lives, these connections to some part of nature that imprint on us so deeply. And I think for me, and maybe for you as well, it's a bit of a unfabricated childhood. It wasn't what I do now with my own kids, which is we're gonna go do mini golf and we're gonna go to a sushi making class, and we're gonna do all these things that are they're
Yeah,
so
yeah,
elaborately over
yeah,
planned
yeah,
versus just
yeah.
being a kid and just experiencing and listening and smelling and feeling, and the impression that it can make this many years later on you that you wrote a beautiful
Mm,
poem around it.
yeah. It's just the unscheduled time, isn't it? I think maybe not so many children have that now, to just be yourself.
Yeah.
It sounds absolutely heavenly. You're making me want to go into a wood and get in a pine needle and just be there for a whole day.
I'm
And
thinking that
those
as well.
and those
Yeah.
and those pine trees that come right down all around you. So you've got like a cave, and pine needles are so soft, aren't they? And it's actually
Yeah.
quite dry inside.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I'm very lucky that I live next to a spot called Bagley Wood, and it's previously owned by Oxford University. But during COVID, they opened it up to everybody. And it is a just a wild space. And it's a fantastic place just to go sit, but do that. Just kind of feel as if nature is enveloping you and everything else kind of melts away. And I think we so often forget to do that in our busy day-to-day lives.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's really important. And I wish that children could have that more now as well.
I do as well. I think it's something that's absolutely missing from so many childhoods. There's just this pressure of testing and academia and being the absolute best that we can do, and a bit of a fear of the outside as well. I think, there's some great books about that written by psychologists, and um, there's definitely, I think that missing freedom of a certain era,
Yeah.
which brings me to a question of when younger generations might be reading your books, and especially this one, is there something that you want them to take away or feel inspired or maybe lead with advocacy or passion or heart? What do you want younger people to pull from these books?
Oh, not cut down trees and to protest and stop that from happening, and to go and enjoy it themselves in nature. I mean, I think this connects up pretty well with there's a poem called In Memoria, which is on page 51, and there is a kind of a campaign amongst younger people, particularly young women, to to kind of memorialize and apologize for the witch burnings.
Mm,
So there are now memorials being set up for women who were burnt as witches, because there's often records of this in particular parishes and whatnot. And I think we could do the same with trees and woods that have been cut down. In Bristol there was recently uh, a place where there were some oldish trees, and there was a desire to develop that place, and so a lot of women went and married the trees, and they're called the tree brides, and they still have been cut down, and it still has been developed, but at least attention was brought to that, and maybe we just need a lot more of that kind of stuff. So I could read this one. It's called In Memoria, and it's page 51. In Memoria. We don't watch the news much. We don't like it. We turn off the radio. Our faces slide away from the litany. This butterfly, that leopard, the dormouse fetally rolled in the woods, hiding from its own demise. We know, and we don't want to know. Too miserable, too painful, la la la. But there's no escape. Even pretty wildlife programs roll towards declining numbers. Old growth forests are felled. Saplings don't replace elders. There are war memorials for the fallen. Shall we make them for the trees in this war of attrition? Those who are breathing our salvation, cleaning, 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 expecting nothing, not even thanks. So I guess there's something that young people do, and I think they do recognise the the difficult turning point we are at in history with climate change and the need to respect nature and all the parts of it that provide us with oxygen. I mean, it's not just trees; it's also all the algae and forests and um, oceans are very important, aren't they?
Mm.
But yeah, it's a way to, instead of get sort of paralyzed by the negativity of the news, how do you find a way to do something positive, isn't it?
This particular poems always they bring up some sort of emotional reaction.
Mm,
This one, and it just happened again for me, that I felt like I needed a moment of silence and reflection. And I think I felt guilt coming from it. And it's the line about cleaning, 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 and expecting nothing, not even thanks. And you don't live in a world where you go outside and you say thank you to every tree that you pass, but it made me feel it. It felt like a call to action, as if it made me question to myself, Ashley, what are you doing? What are you doing to do more to say thanks, to share your children? Or I'm a scout leader, so the kids that I work with every week. Um, what am I doing to remind them to show thanks and to show appreciation for, again, the ecosystem around us that absolutely support and hold up our livelihoods, our lives, our ability to breathe? This one made me feel like I needed to do more. Um, it made me question myself, and I really loved that. So I want to thank you. Thank you for bringing that to me. This is a really beautiful one. It's one that I have flagged for sure.
good.
Yeah.
Well, you don't want to be finger wagging in terms of
No.
creative work, but these are just the kinds of things that I would think about myself. So
Yeah.
I guess it's bound to resonate in some way, isn't it? That a lot of people are thinking like this. What can we do? What can we do now? What can we do that really counts?
If anybody tuned in now had any questions they wanted to ask, feel free to throw them into the chat. We can do that. And just as a kind of holding point for the future, Rachel and I were talking about at a later date, hopefully later this year, Rachel hosting a writing workshop for us, and for those of you online today and other members of the Tree Sisters community, in which we can be inspired or learn some tips on how to write our own poetry within nature. So stay tuned for that. It's something that we'll put together in the background and then get out in the newsletter and on socials as well. Um, Doesn't look like any other questions have come in yet. If any come up that you haven't thought of right now, if you are going for a walk this evening, if you're out walking the dog or bringing the cat in or whatever it is that you're doing, and a question comes to mind, you can always email us at Tree Sisters and we'll get back to you on that. Um, Rachel, was there
There was a
anything?
question about what do I teach at Oxford, and what I
Okay.
teach at Oxford is creative writing, surprisingly enough. And actually, you said you liked the drama is overrated poem.
I
I can
did, and
just
it's one that I wanted to close on, so I would love for you to share that.
okay. So when I planted my garden completely freshly, the first thing I planted was a greengage tree because years and years ago, when I was a child, my grandmother gave me a brown paper bag with some fruit in it. And I tried these green plums, and they were the nicest thing I'd ever tasted. And they were green gages. So I thought, right, I'm going to plant a green gage tree. That's the first thing I'm going to plant. But, all fruit trees take quite a while before they actually fruit. So this is called Drama is Overrated. Take care of your quiet and routine days. You are growing a plum, and a plum tree grows slowly with only moments of blossom. Oh boy.
Some applause for that one. That is another one that made me have some pause and hold that. And I actually took a picture of that earlier today and sent it to a friend who had been going through a bit of a tough time because I thought that was just, it is,
Oh, nice. Well, I'm very happy to hear that. Well, not that she was going for a tough
no, no,
time, but
no, but I wanted to share that because I think it's such a, it's, it's thought invoking and it's light enough that you can hold on to it very easily. And thank you for that one as well. I
pleasure.
just realized, did have a few questions that came in. And one is, what is your favorite Japanese form?
Ah, well, I do like the haiku. I mean, it's great. I've written quite a lot of them, and I was writing one every single day in Japan. And um, you can write the sort of first part of a haiku, and then you can add two more lines if you want to go crazy to really put a squivel on whatever has happened in the haiku. So it's very, very disciplined, and it's like doing a little crossword puzzle or something every day, except there's lots more to it than that. So yeah, haiku, I'd say. And so achievable. You can write one every day. It's not hard.
Someone else has asked, how does one get started? How does one get connected to start writing poems?
Oh, okay. Good question. Um, how about look for something that's significant to you? You know, like for instance, I said about the green gaze tree, I could write a poem about that. I probably should do. But you can find an object that's significant to you and write about the object. And then in doing that, quite often the the sort of emotional content of it will become clearer to you. There's something funny that happens with writing, which I was talking about this week with some of my students, that um, you sort of uncover layers that you didn't necessarily know you knew. So you might sort of provoke memories and things that you'd forgotten about completely. But going through an object or a photo, something like that, or it might be a natural object, then that's quite a good way of getting in there and just trying it out. See, because the object or the photo is sort of representative of something else. It's representative of layers of emotional experience or whatever, and you don't necessarily have to state them directly for it to be very evocative.
And that could be something we can talk about further when we get this poetry writing workshop live, hopefully later in the year.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that
We
would
could do
be
it.
that would
We
be
could do
amazing. Yeah.
in real time writing. Yeah.
And that Joyce, that one's for you. So hopefully you can join us later on when we run that workshop. Let's see. Viv would like to know. Thank you for reading your beautiful poems and curious about how long it has taken you to compose this collection and was your process?
Um, a number of years, I'd say, 4 years maybe, putting them all together, probably. Um, what is my process? The nice thing about being a writer is that you can just kind of follow what does interest you. So I could go down to Cornwall, pitch my tent, sleep in a field with the woman's in the woman's kind of garden who was the tree verifier, go out with her, have a look at the trees that she's verifying, go and visit various sites in Cornwall. Or go up to the Lake District. I went to visit quite a lot of old trees. There's some very old yews up in the Lake District, about 3,000 years old, and there's actually not that unusual in Britain. They're mostly in churchyards, but these ones aren't. They're in the wettest valley in the Lake District, which is significantly wet, to say. And Wordsworth wrote under these yews. So I kind of setting myself up with little trips and maybe day trips. And I've read a lot of books about trees and plants and how they communicate and the sort of science of it. And um, things like The Mother Tree by, is it Simone Simard? Simard is her surname, and she was a forester who did lots of experiments. For instance, clear cutting around trees is the sort of accepted practice, and she did
Mhm.
experiments with not clear cutting and leaving them the vegetation around the tree, and found that that was actually much more beneficial for the survival of the trees and the health of the trees. So Suzanne Simard, yeah, thank you. So, all of that kind of stuff, it's so fascinating. And there are actually lots and lots of books about trees and plants and how beneficial they are. And I was surprised to find, going into bookshops, Blackwell's in Oxford, there's a whole section on trees.
Mm.
It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I see. People are really interested in this. Great. So I thought, what do I want to spend my last bit of writing life doing? So researching something that's really interesting and meaningful to me. And it's nice to be privileged enough to be able to do that, you know.
Again, if anyone is ever in Oxford, Blackwell's is an extraordinary bookstore, definitely worth spending time in. I did also want to highlight in Rachel's anthology here, Heartwood, there are pages in the back just entitled Notes, and I really appreciated them. It's sort of an appendix of um, almost a history of things like the term natural or paper. It's just really beautiful. It gives you a little bit of background information on some of the poetry pieces. So if you don't currently have the book, if you do take a look at it, make sure you read through it. It really made me feel more connected to the poetry. But if you don't have it and you're getting ready to order it, make sure you don't skip those pages. They're really
Thank
beautiful.
you, Ashley. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a little bit naughty to put notes in a poetry
love
book.
it. I love it.
It's like, this information's so interesting. And I don't want to have to sort of cram it into the poem and force it in. But I really want you to know that aspirin comes from willow trees, or, whatever it is. So I thought, I'm just going to put it in the end as notes. And I also put a bibliography in the end of just a short selection of trees that books about trees that I think are really interesting. And obviously people like Robin Wall Kimmerer, who's written quite a lot of amazing nature books, sort of involved with Indigenous wisdom, and also Diana Beresford Kroger. She's amazing.
Yeah. Absolutely fantastic. Someone else just said, lucky to love the notes. Someone else mentioned the ancient news, and I think that's Borrowdale. I was just up in the Lake District last week and fell in love with it. That was my first time up there. Someone in the comments did ask about ordering the book for Canada. If that person can contact, I know Ria from Tree Sisters posted the UK bookshop. If the person from Canada can just message support at Tree Sisters or Ashley at Tree Sisters, we'll get in touch with you about the Canada book in case you can't have it shipped through the UK website. I'm happy to talk to you about that. Um, Colorado, same thing. Ashley at Tree Sisters. Yeah, support at treesisters.org. That will get forwarded to me. Um, and then a question about, do you teach classes for the public in Oxford? That question is there for you.
Okay. No, it's people who sign up for the creative writing summer schools, which, members of the public can do if they want to. And I teach in Bristol, for the public. Basically, it is through Bristol Uni, but it's a community class so that anyone can join it. They don't have to sort of show any great writing prowess or anything. But
Um,
it's not the extramural department at Oxford, I don't think. It's called continuing education, so whatever that means.
okay, yeah, you're welcome. Okay, it is just now 4 o'clock. Oh, someone said, is the summer school online?
No.
It is 4 o'clock. I am going to close it. I went to thank everybody so much for signing on. Thank you, Rachel, so much. After I left my absolutely fantastic lunch meeting with Rachel a few months ago, I came home and said to my partner that that was it is such a beautiful privilege to be able to spend time with people through my role here at Tree Sisters, who are inspiring and people I want to be more like. So thank you. I
Oh,
appreciate your time here today. Thank you for all of you who have joined in, had a very active conversation. We all really appreciate it. Tune in, keep an eye on the newsletter, social media, and we'll have more events coming up soon. Thank you all. Thank you, Rachel.
thank you, Ashley, and thank you everybody who's been here. It's been great. It's been fun.
Thank you, everybody. We're going to close out. Thank you.